You're listening to Inspire Change, a broadcast that strives to educate, motivate, and empower men to challenge traditions of masculinity. To guide us through the intricacies and intersections of emotions, relationships, and male identity is renowned psychologist, author, and speaker Gunter Swoboda. This is Inspire Change.
Before I begin the actual podcast, I would like to respectfully acknowledge the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, who are the traditional custodians of the land on which I work. I would also like to pay my respects to their elders past and present. Welcome to Inspire Change with Gunter, the podcast that's going to help you to navigate the winding pathways of the mind to a better you. Nice intro, eh? As you may have guessed, I'm your host, Gunter, and today I want to carry on from the last podcast and get a bit deeper into the world of romantic relationships and exploring how we can enhance the quality of those relationships. And I'm going to use the insights from the Gottman method. I'm a real fan of the Gottman's work. The framework that I'm going to present was developed by Drs. John and Julie Gottman, who are renowned clinical psychologists. And the Gottman method is a research-based approach to creating stronger, healthier relationships. And it very concretely identifies critical elements that lead to long-lasting, fulfilling partnerships when nurtured. And yes, if you're guessing, that's pretty well how I view and I try to be within my own relationship with my partner. So, where are we going to go with this? Well, the whole point of this, and I'm going to speak to men in particular, and I know there are women listening, and you're most welcome. And you will benefit from this as much as the men. But with men, I need to get the message home a little bit more concretely at times because, we can be somewhat obtuse. So, don't take offence, guys, but it's true. 40 years of working in counselling, therapy and coaching men, sometimes we do have some real blind spots that come about from how we're socialised and raised. So this is all about how we as men can stop feeling lonely and alienated in our romantic relationship. Okay? So first things first. The Gottmans have come up with a method, and I've spoken about this before, but I'm just going to give you a quick refresher because I think it's really important. And that is a little program that if you spend the time, and it's 6 hours a week, you will have, by definition, a better relationship. And so what are the elements in that? Well, there are 6 elements. They talk about partings, reunions, appreciation and admiration, affection, date night, and the weekly check-in. Okay, so essentially, partings when you're going out. So you make an effort to learn one thing that's happening in your partner's life before saying goodbye in the morning. So one of the things that I quite often do is, so what's your day going to look like? I'll see you at midday and I hope you have a good morning with whatever you're doing. And usually I know what my partner's doing. So if you allocate 2 minutes a day, 5 times a week, that's going to already start to make a difference. The next bit's reunions, which is 20 minutes a day. And so what the Gottmans talk about is that you come home and when you see your partner again at the end of the day, share a hug and kiss. And they're quite specific. They talk about kissing a kiss that lasts at least 6 seconds. And John Gottman calls this a kiss with potential. Okay, and then you have a bit of a stress-reducing conversation for about 20 minutes. Now, I know that there's a whole host of you are going to be doing oh, no, we don't have time. I come home at a time where, the house is chaos, the kids are going ballistic, my wife is stressed to the max. Okay, I get it. Been there, done that. But we can still do it. It takes discipline. Get the kids preoccupied with something for 20 minutes, get them out of your hair, and then get into it. And if you're part of that day is not working like that, you need to think about giving some space to you and your wife when you reunite. Okay, it's really, really important. One of the things that we found in the 80s when we did a bit of a look at conflict in relationships, some of the most frequent times for fights were around between 6 and 7:30. Now guess what's happening there? It's dinner, bath time, someone's trying to watch the news, the kids are running amok, all sorts of stuff. Some kids are supposed to be going to sleep and they're not going to sleep. Okay, I won't stress that any further. If you're interested, please get in touch and we can expand on this. The third element is appreciation and admiration. 5 minutes a day, 7 days a week. Okay? So this is particularly important. It's about, expressing gratitude for what your partner is and is doing in your relationship. Okay? So really quite simple. The other part, number 4, is about affection. And this is a particular challenge, one in long-term relationships where we sort of get comfortable. It's like a pair of old slippers. We only miss them when they're gone. But, and perhaps appreciate them until they're gone. So anyway, the whole point is to be concrete and explicit in your expression of affection. Give each other a hug, kiss, hold hands, cuddle up on the couch, all sorts of stuff. And then there's date night, okay? They allocate 2 hours once a week for that. And I'm going to leave it to you to decide what a date night looks like. Use your imagination. It's not just about sex. Preferably it's about, emotional and physical and some social connection. And lastly, it's about a weekly check-in, which is about an hour a week. For some couples, that might be a bit of a push. If that's a push, make it half an hour. But cover the topic of, any concerns within the relationship, what we can do about it, each person taking ownership for their partner problem and taking ownership for the solution. Okay, first things first. Now, what's the next bit? Well, fundamentally, let's talk a little bit about the Gottman's framework, which is the Sound Relationship House. Now, this is a model that illustrates the components of a strong relationship. And the house has essentially 7 levels, each representing a critical aspect of your relationship. Now, starting from the ground up, the first level is about building love maps. And this is about understanding your partner's world, their hopes, their dreams, their fears and experiences. And what that's going to require is a heightened sense of empathy, the capacity to mindfully listen. Remember, don't just talk. You need to listen first, then talk, and use open-ended questions in that process. And so, really, really important. The second level is about sharing fondness and admiration. Okay, let's come back to the first principles of the exercises for the week. This is where it goes. The focus is on the amount of affection and respect you express within a relationship. Most of us, no, perhaps I'm being unkind, some of us are a bit like Scrooge McDuck. We have a huge base of assets, but we are very frugal in expressing them. So let's talk about the third level, which is turning towards instead of turning away. Now, I talk and I teach men to lean into the relationship, whether it's going well or when it's, a shitstorm, okay? Don't back off. Most of our partners will take the leaning out, right, the turning away as a rejection. Okay, now it's also going to require some base rules about fighting fair, but that's really, really important. I'll talk about that later. Okay, so this level is about the importance of acknowledging and responding to your partner's needs. Now, you're not necessarily going to always be able to meet all your partner's needs, but the communication around it and the expression of it is important. What do we find on the fourth level? Well, this is where we find the positive perspective, which is about seeing the good in your partner, even during conflicts. Now, there are some very important skills around that, because if you're in a relationship where your partner is essentially highly critical, disrespectful, contemptuous, defensive, and who stonewalls you, you need to seek a way in which you can explore that. Now, that's going to be difficult because more often than not, your partner's going to be defensive, but you need to call them on it. And you probably are going to need help in doing so, which is a professional. So, but unless that's there, default to the positive perspective. Okay, the next level up, the fifth level, and this is where we talk about managing conflict. And this is about very clearly navigating disagreements effectively and constructively. And one of the things that I use is a fighting fair model. And I talk about, values in that. I talk about the four horsemen of the apocalypse in it. And I talk about 15 rules about what not to do. So don't bring your mother-in-law into it, okay? That is a nuclear hand grenade. There could be others as well, but let's stick with that one. So at the sixth level of the house, this is where we are looking at making life dreams come true. And it's about supporting your partner's hopes and aspirations. Don't stand in their way, don't be a control freak, and don't get into your own anxieties about potentially what you're going to miss out. And finally, at the seventh level, we're creating shared meaning. And this is where partners build a shared narrative and purpose. And this is where I often talk about being attuned. Now, there's also an element where we attune with children and adolescents, but this is where I'm attuned to my partner. And we weave and bring our dreams and stories together. Okay? Now, each level is crucial in its own way, but they're interconnected. They build upon one another, creating a strong and resilient relationship house. The house that love builds. Okay? So even in conflict, if I can maintain my commitment to my own values, which is to be a loving, respectful, and cooperative partner, husband, whatever you want to call yourself in that relationship, that's the place to come from. Having a relationship that works in not eliminating disagreements, but making them fruitful. That is fundamentally, just so critical. So, in amongst it all, the practical stuff is explore your values, your goals, the narratives that you both connect with. It could be anything from sort of hobbies, mutual goals, common purposes. The family that hangs on the beach together stays together in my book. So, it's just all that stuff we care about and we share with one another. Now, this is going to take time, so I kid you not. So if you think you can do little drip feeds and it'll, work magic and it's all going to be hunky-dory, forget it. By investing time and effort into each level of the sound relationship house, you will build a resilient relationship that's fulfilling and deeply connected and will last a lifetime. Too many of us get into a relationship with one foot out the door already. And that's sad. And it's sad for the kids. It's sad for the extended family. So, you need to think about that. This is just, don't go into a relationship frivolously. You will experience a lot of pain if you do. And you will inflict a lot of pain if you do. All right, so let me give you a quick reminder. Episode 200 is coming up rapidly. I'll be joined by my dear friend Dr. Mark Williams, and we're going to be talking about all things connected, in line with the release of his new book, The Connected Species. If you have any questions, by all means, throw them our way. It'll be coming from the perspective of science, neuroscience, and psychology, and it's evidence-based. It's not just fluffy stuff, right? We're not going into the woo-woo. We are going to go into the hard nuts and bolts of what it means about being connected and unconnected. Okay? So that's all for today. This episode hopefully will inspire you deeply to work on your relationships, and therefore maybe you've gotten some insights into the Gottman method and how it can enhance your relationship. Now, always remember that every relationship is not perfect, it's a work in progress, and every step you take towards improvement is a step towards a more fulfilling, satisfying, and loving partnership. So let me sign off. You've been listening to Inspire Change with Gunter, and join me next time for more insights into personal growth and transformation. I'll keep the next topic up my sleeve. Let's see what comes around. Until next time, this is me signing off.
Thank you for listening to Inspire Change, a broadcast that strives to educate, motivate, and empower men to challenge traditions of masculinity. For more information on the Making Good Men Great movement, or for individual or group coaching sessions with Gunter, visit makinggoodmengreat.com. For inquiries regarding broadcast topics or appearing on the show, email Miranda@noirtainment.com. That's Miranda at NOIRTAINMENT.com.